Oh,
I need to straighten up because I don't like my mother showing too much on the front.
I probably don't have the best view too. Plus, I had my jumper, my black jumper, but I had my kids' food on it. Oh my! So I'm like, oh, I can't wear a jumper off.
So the good thing about that, if you were wearing it and then you notice during the episode, just call it out, just before somebody else does. Oh, look at this guy. He's got food all over his thing. Just you're probably wondering, well, all this shit is this my kid. And then I don't know, let's empathize with you.
Black shirts are worse for me. Like that. I told the other day came to, she's like, wipes their nose on me. Yeah, doesn't even argue, just wipes their nose on me. Bless them.
Yeah, I get that with my nieces and nephews, so good.
So welcome to the first episode of Clothes Wars. Cue the Star Wars music. I'm thinking of a theme music for us, bro. But essentially, Clothes Wars is about sharing real life examples of sales tactics, and we have our Padawan, which is myself, and our pro, our Master Jedi, Jedi Yoda here, or whatever name we haven't figured out. But I'd like to welcome in Joey Nanai. How you been, bro?
Good, brother. Good to be here. Good to be back.
So we're
Excited.
We've been working together for a while now, and you've been, if I was to be honest, bro, you've been a big part of my business journey since we just connected. I guess we were kind of reignited when we had our first podcast, right? And now it's just you helping out through mentoring and whatnot. And it's been a real big help for me. I just wanted to acknowledge that before we get into the mahi, but yeah, just like to thank you for like all the help you've been, and then I think for I guess the listeners, first time listeners. Let's share a bit of context about how we started this idea. You kind of come up with the name, so you kind of did a lot of the thinking. I kind of mentioned it, but take us through like the thinking behind Clothes Wars.
So, Clothes Wars is basically what's already happening out there in the workplace, in business, in the corporate world that I'm quite familiar with. And it's also happening in the home, in the personal lives of, many like us. And we don't realize that we're actually closing people. I always say, you close or be closed. You're either closing the other person or they're closing you on their idea, or their plan, their, strategy, or you're actually closing them on what it is that you want them to do. So it came from that, but it also came from, the war room scenario where you've got one person sharing their deal that they were a part of, that they managed to either get across the line, or they're stuck in the sales process, or they're stuck in whatever it is they're stuck in the deal, because they've come across a stumbling block that they didn't know how to get over, and they need help. And now they're in a war room where there's a whole bunch of their peers who all have been through it before and all have questions to try and find out a bit more about what the scenario is so they can help. And the person who's presenting their scenario or their deal in this war room, for example, they have to present, they have to give the scenario and then shut the hell up and take on all the bits of advice that everyone has to give and answer all the questions.
Or just for our listeners, right? Do you mind sharing a bit about your background?
Yeah, my background's currently in corporate sales. Before that, corporate travel, where it's always been sales since the early 2000s. So over 20 years of selling B2B, B2C, door knocking, different sectors, different environments, different markets, different countries, different decision makers, different verticals, different industries, different people, basically. So I've pretty much sold to any type of person in a workplace, whether that be a CEO or a janitor.
How many times have you heard when you tell me the spin?
Over the years, I've heard it many times by all the sales gurus, and I've seen many videos where they do that, and I always laugh whenever I see it.
I got shared a meme today from one of the boys, and he shares me a meme of someone trying to sell a glass of water, and he gives up, and then the guy that's trying to sell the water, he says, "Oh, I give up," and then he brings out a packet of salted crackers, and he starts eating it, and he knows the guy opposite him who did him to do that deal is hungry, so the guy eats it, and then he takes away the water, and then sells the water for $20. But the point of that is that's kind of the key theme for me in terms of what I've been learning in my business journey is understanding your clients' pain points and how no one cares about you, bro. No one cares about who you are or what you do. Is what they can do for you. They care about what you can do for them. And so I guess this is a good segue into kind of how we're going to unpack the show. So in terms of the style of Closed Wars, is more of a talkback um, show around us unpacking deals. So for my followers, you guys obviously follow my journey in terms of me closing deals, hopefully closing most deals, and yeah, my journey of entrepreneurship. And I brought in Joey here to share his expertise. He does this already with me, but we're gonna unpack some deals. And so, how's that sound, Joey?
Sounds fantastic.
So just for a bit of context for our viewers, I yeah, pretty much on my journey, my entrepreneurship journey, I've been going out and trying to make a dollar, and I do this through my business. And Joey coaches me, and one of the recent kind of jobs that I've recently closed. It was my first retainer client, and I was able to close a deal with a sponsor, and I kind of felt in my journey that I at the end of closing and go through all those meetings, and Joey was a part of the journey. I kind of felt like I was like, man, I'm done after closing that deal and finally getting signed across the dotted line. And there were a few phases where Joey was helping me through different parts of it. But I think at the end of it, I felt like drained and through the whole sales process, bro. And maybe we should start there, man. Like, what do you like? Just share some nuggets around that and that process.
I always try and place myself in your shoes. And it's the reason why I always ask you for context.
Yeah.
I ask you to give me as much information as you can about what happened. So I try to understand from a real detailed way what actually happened. So who you spoke to, where the stumbling blocks were, if any, and what the goal is. So I have to understand what the goal is. And then I place myself in your shoes. So
Did I unpack it?
yeah, unpack it.
Yeah.
Unpack it.
So it was actually from a door knock. So I was promoting this offer, and me door knocking and sending flyers. I got a call back from that flyer. We had a meeting, and then from there we had a proposal sent. Then we had a post meeting, and we had a gentleman's handshake agreement probably after the second meeting, or maybe the third meeting. And then there was a bit of hesitancy from it being across the line in terms of getting signed, getting paid. And then the final stumbling box was right at the end. I did all this work, added in extras, and then we closed the deal. Yay, that was a win. But yeah, like I said, it was like real training. I felt like I did. So that's kind of the journey of that deal. So just to paint a picture for our viewers. So yeah.
So that's not uncommon of a scenario where you've won a deal, but it doesn't feel like it was a deal that you could be totally 100% happy with how the process went. And the reason why you're feeling drained is because there were a few things that happened during the process, during the conversations, that you had to work extra hard for, you had to go the extra mile for, and you felt like you had to convince the other person because they weren't getting it, they weren't understanding it from your perspective, and that's normal. As salespeople, we really want the message to get across because we feel like we're so convicted in what it is we have to bring to the table that we need the other side to feel that way too. But what often happens is we get so far into the conversation that when the other person indicates that they don't understand, or there are gaps in their knowledge, or they just don't see the value the way you see it, that's when it starts to get a little bit frustrating because you've already said to them, here's the value I bring, here's the reasons why you should do it, here's the benefits to you, I don't see what's holding you back.
Yeah, and I found that was like, for me, I found myself repeating that. Like, and that's all good, but I got drained on that and having to articulate the value in a way that guy was trying to understand. And so, yeah, probably that was contributing to that. And then I also felt kind of desperate, bro. Like I felt yuck feeling too desperate about it. So I don't know what's that about.
So that's normal as well. Yeah. Feeling yuck. The word yuck is good word to use.
Yucky.
So feeling yucky comes from being in what I call convince mode.
Yeah.
As soon as
I remember that. Yeah.
As soon as you get in convince mode, you're losing. That's the way you have to look at it. Because now you've made it about you. You've made it about you and what you bring to the table. It has to always be about the other side. It has to be, that with him that people talk about. What's in it for me? WIIFM, with him. You have to cater to the with him of the other person. It basically means, what's in it for me? And if you cater to their with him, you've got their attention, right? Because the way that you should look at conversations and deals and statements you make to the other side, especially when you're in convince mode, you've got to picture the other person answering every statement, answering every question with the question, so what? If you can picture them answering or responding with so what, you're going to get something ready on your side. So what that means to you, Mr. Customer, then the benefit statement happens, right? What that means to you, Mr. Customer, you know how you said, if I keep going down this road, I'll come to another problem. This is how we avoid it, Mr. Customer, right? So now the ears are pricked up, and now it's their turn to go, okay, I understand it now. I've got the value. I get it. Let's do it, right? Until they get to that point with you, they're never going to sign. They're never going to do a deal with you. They're never going to come on board. So it's up to you as a salesperson to get them there. So what I always say is it has to be their data, not yours.
Well,
They have to come to the conclusion themselves. They have to come to, let's do it, Romero. It's I understand everything now. I'm good. I have no gaps in my understanding. Let's do it. So unless that comes out of their mouth, you haven't got a deal, right? But there's a way that you can guide them there. So you look at yourself as a guide. You look at yourself as a helper, because sales is help. That's one of the things I tell myself.
bro. Just before, as you get into that part, I think as someone learning sales and getting better at it, I can't help but naturally feel, especially when you're relying on you making a deal to pay the bills, right? I can't help but not go into a situation where, okay, like be selfish. Like, okay, I know I need to make this deal because I need to make $1. And so I think going back to the mindset as well, and I think it comes with reps as well. But like when you talked about convince mode, yeah, I was in convince mode when I didn't get after the first proposal meeting because I thought, man, why wouldn't he? And then I felt like because I was had that yuck, desperate feeling, and yeah, I how do you catch yourself, bro, before you get into convince mode? You know?
So, like I said, the so what thing,
Yeah,
you've got to, before you start talking,
yeah,
you've got to think in your mind, he's going to answer with, or she's going to answer with, so what?
Yeah.
So what? If you can picture them saying, so what? So after every statement you
That's
make,
good, yeah.
then you're going to prepare yourself a bit better mentally and go, okay. So I'm not just going to throw empty statements out to you to try and convince you to sign. I'm actually going to give you benefit statements. So I'm going to do it like this. So, Mr. Prospect, you said that if we go down this path, it'll lead you to achieving the goals that you shared with me earlier, right? So this is just a basic scenario. But if we go down this path, then you're going to lose out on a few things that you said, you don't want to lose. So there's two options there, Mr. Prospect. So basically what that means to you is you're now at a crossroads where you have to decide which path do you actually want to take. So what I've done to you right now is I've given you an alternative close. You go down this road, or you go down that road. Go down this road, there's a benefit there because it's going to help you achieve that goal that you said you wanted. We go down this road where you're going to now be in a dangerous situation where if you don't avoid what you said is going to impact you and your family, that's going to hurt. So do you want to go towards pleasure, achieving that goal over there, or do you want to avoid pain over here? So typically people go for this one, where they avoid the pain, because it's more powerful closer than a benefit will always ever be.
Yeah, and I just want to recap on that too, bro. That's what you made me realize, that you want to make the customer answer the question themselves. And I felt myself, once I felt like, crap, I need to convince them. I felt like I was filling that void of all those statements, but I was just selling myself and not trying to sell the pain points and letting the customer realize it themselves. And so, learning how to, what you just said to me is, you got to look at the customer and see when, and treat them like they're gonna say so what. And so it was a good reminder, bro, because it was texting, It was texting when we went through the deal.
So the benefit statement that you've got to follow a so what with, even an imaginary so what,
Yep.
they never see it.
Yep.
So what that means to you, so you start your sentence with, so what that means to you after you've just made a statement. So you might make a statement like, if you take this car today, we'll be able to get it to you and get all these great things. And then you just go through the whole list of great things that comes with the car. And immediately the customer's like, so what? I never mentioned that I want any of those things, right? So in your mind, you're like, so what that means to you is when you go to your family reunion, you're going to look good to all those people, because you said,
car, you got XYZ.
because you said to me, you want to look good at your next family reunion. Here's the answer.
And that's always going back to outcomes focus, right? Being outcomes focused.
Outcomes focused, results focused, right? So typically what you want to do as well, if you're in front of the person or even on a Zoom call where they can see you on a screen, you want to make sure that you're coming across with good body language and good tonality and all those things, right? So you want to make sure that, okay, Mr. Customer or Mr. Prospect, do you want the cheapest car? So you do this. Do you want the cheapest car, or do you want the car that's going to make you look good at the family reunion? Because that's what you said you wanted. So you want to create that gap, that visual gap. And you want to let them know that if I mention cheap and I put down here versus family reunion, look good to all my peeps, right? When I rock up in that flash car, what I've done is I've created a gap, right, between flash car, looking good, and cheapest, because I want to plant a seed in their mind that cheapest doesn't always mean good.
Yep.
And here it is down here, right? And that gap is you. You're filling the gap with your solution, which is the car.
So there was a point in that deal too. There was a call to try close that customer, and I found myself, because I wasn't convinced much straight away. Well, maybe I started. Actually, I'm not always in convincement. I would say I'll start off, how you going, and like try to build that rapport. Once I feel like I'm losing the lead, then I go into convincement. And one of the things I said, I think when I said, or what's stopping you? Why? Oh, because I've laid out the whole deal, all the benefits. It was pretty obvious that it was a good deal to me. But I said that, what's stopping you? And you mentioned something about that. Do you want to unpack?
Yeah. So
that part of it?
when you get to a certain part in a deal where, the customer knows that they've got you, they know they've got you at a point where, okay, I've got the sales guy where I want him. I can now position myself to ask for a better discount, right? So there's rules. There's certain rules along the way. And the rule here, or one of the rules here is, never piss off a customer who can hurt you by doing nothing.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? If he wants to do nothing and walk away from the deal, that'll hurt you, because you have in your mind, I've got bills to pay, I've got a holiday that's coming up that I want to have some money for, I've got all these things that I need money for, and this deal is going to help me get there. So the way that comes across is convince mode. And as soon as the customer realizes that you, the salesperson, are in convince mode, they know they've got you. So now they're in position to ask for the discount. But the way out of that is first, ask the right questions at the right time, right? Use the right terminology if you have to. The other thing is, don't be in convince mode. Do things or say things that make you sound like, one, a trusted advisor. Two, you know exactly what you're talking about. Three, you give across the energy that I don't need this deal. And when you do that, you're detached from the outcome, you're detached from the result of this deal. The customer now is doing the pulling. They're like, oh, no. I need you to give me this car. Because they're the one chasing now. So now it's going to come out of their mouth.
So I kind of did that tactically as well. Further down the deal was, I try to use time and urgency. They say, hey, would you be okay if you were to see this person's this person take the deal? And they went in defense mode straight away. And they were like, who else will blah blah blah? Like, there you go. So he went into defense mode, and I kind of felt, oh crap, am I losing rapport there? But I was able to reel him back in. But you talk about that was me trying to be their trust advisor, but also be okay with the deal not happening. But I wanted to close it, bro. That was why we try to be tricky. So do you want to touch on that?
So the thing with buyers that you have to understand, buyers these days, they can see those tracks a mile away. They can see it a mile away. They can smell it. So as soon as it leaves your mouth, they're like, should I call this guy's bluff or? But what he did do is he got into defense mode. He was like angry because he thought he was the only one you were selling to. And then you brought in these imaginary figures, maybe they're imaginary, maybe they weren't, but he didn't want to take that chance. So he got angry. That's his typical defense mode. So in those moments where a prospect gets visibly upset, as I like to call it, don't get into apology mode, right? But do apologize.
Okay.
So what it looks like is, oh, I apologize. I didn't mean to get you upset. I didn't mean to offend you, but be genuine about it. Be authentic about it, about your apology. What I mean about apology mode is, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh, I'm so sorry. What I meant was, so apology mode for me is when salespeople lie. They say, I'm sorry, but they don't mean the sorry. When you give an apology, actually mean it. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you. And then leave it at their feet. Let them respond. Typically, you'll get a response like, oh, don't worry about it. Or, oh, no, it's all good. Let's move on. So they'll be the ones who start you on. They'll be like, oh, no, let's talk. So then they're okay because you apologized. You brought them back from anger, up here, high emotion, to neutral. Back to neutral, right? So they have to be in neutral to close. And they have to come to the conclusion themselves. That's why I always say the easiest closes, the best closes are the easiest ones, and they normally happen at the end because naturally in the process, they got closed along the way. They close themselves. You as a salesperson should never close them. You should just guide them along. You give them the information they want and need, and then at the end, they close themselves. That's how it should be.
So that's a good segue onto the last part of that deal, eh? So we, gentlemen's agreement, handshake. I didn't have the proposal ready because I needed the T's and C's lined up for the contract. Read it up within 24 hours, received it with the aim road. Once this gets across the line, we can start this process. And then crickets, hesitancy comes through. And then this made me ultra convinced mode. And so this was the dance that tired me out, bro. So maybe we just touch on that part
Yep.
of the
So-
deal.
So there's a thing that I use, a framework in this particular scenario.
Yeah.
This is before you end that conversation. So there's such a thing called BAM FAM, book a meeting from a meeting, right? But there's also this, which is kind of a variation on BAM FAM. So you basically get their verbal agreement because they're in front of you. You've just done the handshake agreement, and you want to avoid going down the road of being ghosted.
Yeah.
So what you do in that moment, you say, look, Mr. Prospect, what can happen sometimes, and it's happened to me in the past,
So this is after you've gentleman's agreement, shook on it.
around the same time though,
Okay.
around the same
Okay.
time before you let them go.
Okay. So like what was it reenacted?
So before you shake hands,
Yeah.
Mr. Prospect, thank you. Let me just summarize everything you're getting with, our agreement.
Yep.
With what you're getting here. So you summarize everything that they're going to get, all the benefits of, the agreement they've just shaken hands on. Then you say, Mr. Prospect, can I just share with you what can typically happen from here? You'll get a yes. You get, yeah, go ahead. I'm just worried that we'll go away from here high on emotion, that, we're about to do something great together, and then life gets in the way. Use that one. Life gets in the way where, all these priorities that weren't priorities before become priorities now for whatever reason. And our timelines that we agree to now are no longer things that we can do, which is fine, by the way, Mr. Customer. If that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be. What I'm hoping doesn't happen is that something that happened to me previously on a previous agreement where I was dealing with someone who, she was high on emotion, I was high on emotion, that we're going to do some great things together. And then for one reason or another, she went missing for a good 2 months. That's not going to happen here, is it?
I was waiting for that part.
All right.
Yeah.
And you've got to ask it like that.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen here with you, is it? You can word that however way you want, but you got to do it in that way, because what you're doing is you're showing that, okay, I'm uneasy about asking you this question, but I need to ask you this question, and I need you to see me ask and experience that with me, because I want you to know that you're in good hands. And if I can ask you this question now, I'm going to do that on your behalf later in the relationship.
Okay.
If we're to work together, you can trust me that I'll do good things for you on your behalf, whether that's in my business, to suppliers, to partners, or whatever. I'm going to have these difficult conversations on your behalf.
So what would you want the customers to say in that scenario? Come back to you and say from that response.
Well, they're going to say, they're typically going to say, you know what, Romero, you have no worries. Something to that effect. No, Romero, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. See, it has to leave their mouth. That kind of answer has to leave their mouth, and they have to hear it. So another trick that I'll teach you right now is pretend to be death. Pretend to be death. So as soon as they give you the answer, as soon as they give you the answer, oh, what was that? So let's go through the scenario now. Shake hands. Romero, I'm really looking forward to doing all those great things that we said we're going to do together. Can I just share with you a bit of something that really concerns me about this kind of scenario? Can I share that with you?
Yeah. What's
Is that okay? So typically what can happen is, we stick to our timelines when we said we're going to meet again, and we're going to do certain things. You're going to do this, I'm going to do that. But what can happen is life can get in the way. So what I'm asking you is, that's fine if life gets in the way, but can you do me the courtesy of letting me know that something's come up? Or not ghosting me? That's not going to happen here, right?
You know, Joey, I'm a man of my word. It's not going to happen.
Oh, perfect. Great to hear. Actually, what'd you say?
It's not. I'm gonna sign this deal for you.
Sorry, what was that? So, you're in that moment, but you got to do it really quick. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, we'll get this across the line. We'll get this across the line.
So they have to hear themselves saying it twice.
Twice. See, that's right.
Because it has to leave their mouth and go back through their ears. And once something, data has left your mouth, gone through your ears, you understand it and you believe it because you said it.
Mm.
Even if it's a lie, you believe it because you said it. So that's the psychological, I guess, technique that gets them to solidify in their mind, I need this.
Yeah.
And I need it because I said I need it.
Yeah.
He helped me get there, but I was the one that came to that decision.
Yeah.
On my own.
Yeah.
He didn't need to convince me. He didn't need to throw it down my throat. He didn't need to offer me discounts. That's what we're avoiding. We're avoiding discounting for nothing, for no reason at all.
Yeah.
It has to be a compelling reason why you ever give a discount. It's either a strategy that you've used for marketing, promoting and things, or there's a compelling reason why you're giving a discount. And you can't just give a discount that wasn't asked for. So the rule there is never answer an unasked question. Everyone wants to feel like they've got a deal, right? Everyone wants to feel like, yeah, I've got a deal, or I'm getting more value than I'm paying for. So once the value is up here, the price, which is down here, right? You have to create that gap between the actual value that they perceive versus the price, the sticker price. Once you create that gap, they won't question the price anymore because look at the value they're getting.
Yeah. And I think an easy thing to do as well is when you want to show value, you start, oh, this is what I do. I start listing, this is what I can do. These are the deliverables. Yeah, I kind of feel like I have to do that. And this goes back to me trying to sell the deal to myself, trying to be in convincement. And when I'm in the negotiation phases of a deal, I typically, now I'm learning, I typically find myself doing that, listing the benefits, this is what you get. So maybe just maybe touch on that, bro, like,
Yep.
the psyche as well. Like, why do you feel like I'm like that?
Yep. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because it's a benefit to the client. And as long as you're convinced yourself and you have total conviction that what I bring to the table is going to benefit you, that is felt by the customer. But the way we deliver that message and the things we say around it, they matter more.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to listing things out, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to say to yourself, he's about to say or she's about to say, so what? So what? I don't care about all those benefits.
In that case, so because this is what's happening, you're going to get this X, Y, Z. So this is going to enable you.
So why does that matter to me, the customer? Why should I even care, Ramiro?
Yeah. Well,
why should I care about all these things?
Yeah. So by getting this car, Joey, I'm going to be able to travel to Wellington without no problems on gas tank. That's going to allow you to have more.
Yeah.
You know.
Those are great things, right? Those are great things. Let's touch on that.
Yep.
Those are great things. But did I say they were great things as a customer?
No. So I need to make you say that that's great things, right?
You don't need to make me say those are great things. You just need to find out.
Okay, so then after that, I would say,
as a salesperson, your job.
What do you think of that?
As a salesperson, your job is to find out what's important to the other side. As soon as I find out what's important to you, that goes in the back of my mind. Okay, I'm storing that here for the later in the conversation, right?
That's the discovery part of the session.
So as soon as I gather information from you that you said is important to you, right? I'm going to store it here for a little bit and we're going to keep talking. Yeah. And then when it's time for me to present, which should be the final nail in the coffin, by the way, unfortunately, a lot of salespeople and sales teams, they present first before they give the proposal, which is so backwards.
What does that mean?
So presenting is basically you presenting what I mean by proposals, the cost.
Yeah.
So the way I like to do it is I like to do a discovery where we have initial conversations. I gather information from you about what's important to you, what your goals are, what the gaps are between where you'd like to be and where you are now. What does that gap look like? That's the most key thing for me. If there's no gap, which is pain, basically pain, to me, there's no deal.
Yeah.
If there's no pain, there's no deal. And the reason why I say that is because buying decisions are made emotionally, right? They're justified logically or intellectually. So you place yourself, so let's touch on that. You place yourself in a buying scenario. Let's say you went to buy some whiteware for your house, a fridge, washing machine, whatever, a dryer, whatever. And you had in your mind as a plan for Saturday, say you went early morning on a Saturday, I'm going to go try out 3 different places because that's my buying process.
Yeah.
Right?
You do diligence.
I went to the first place. The sales guy who I dealt with, after maybe 10 minutes of going through all the specs, going through all the different types of whiteware, then tries to sell me on, certain bits of whiteware because they thought, oh, this is what I want. They didn't take the time to actually figure out what it is that's important to you about whiteware. Why do you need whiteware? Do you need whiteware that fits in a certain area? Do you need whiteware that looks a certain shade of white? Is it shiny? Does it do the job? Is it fast? Is it efficient? Whatever, right? They didn't take the time to get to know you on that. All they did was spit specs on you and spit what they thought were benefits. Here's the reasons why you should get this fridge. This, and this. The problem there, although they might be great things, great reasons why it's priced at $2,000, you never said it was important to you. Because I didn't take the time as a salesperson to understand, why are you here?
And then it starts with asking questions.
It starts with asking questions, doing a discovery, right? You've got to discover as a salesperson what's important to the other side. Is there even a reason why you're here? Why are you here with me today? How did we get here to this meeting? What made you agree to a meeting, right? What was the intent of this for you, Mr. Customer? What are you hoping I can do for you? What are you hoping to achieve with the solution that I present to you? Are you in a position to pay for that? To make the problem you said was a problem go away, right? Are you in a position? Do you have the budget to pay for something that, you said was important for you? Do you have the timeline, decision-making process that's going to work well with you getting this product you said was important for you? All those things matter when it comes to a buying process.
So typically with a deal there, right? What do you think is the ideal scenario in terms of, like, with a discovery session? Are we trying to close on the first meeting, or is it really depending on the deal? So, like, from discovery, because you've done your homework, you got like 3 offers that you could potentially present. What is your kind of process or advice around that? Because for me, I don't want to look too well. I'm in a scenario as a small business, right? That I need to close deals to put bread on the table, and so I don't have the time to have 3, 4, 5 meetings because then the value of the deal diminishes, which is what's happened in this one. So how, going back to what I was saying around the process, what do you think is the ideal way to close a deal? Like the first,
That's a good question to ask. So even before that,
Yeah.
you've got to understand certain things. One, you've got to understand, okay, what type of buyer do I want to work with? Because as you experienced firsthand, you had a buyer that said yes eventually, right? After a lot of pulling and tugging, and you were exhausted by the time they did the deal, right? And that usually comes from giving more than we're getting. So you probably felt at the end of that, man, I gave so much more than the commission I'm getting, or whatever I'm getting back from it, right? So you've got to understand, who's my ideal customer? What do they look like? Do they look like someone who makes life easy for themselves and makes quick decisions? Do they look like a customer who's in pain? Do they look like a customer who goes through a typical process of, I'm going to find as many options as possible and shop around for as long as I can until I find the cheapest? Are they, a cheapskate? Right? These things you have to consider. So once you've figured out what your ideal customer profile looks like, or an ICP, then you're ready to go out there in the marketplace. Until you do that, until you figure out who your ideal customer is, because at the end of it all, you have to work with them, and it's your time. If you value your time enough, you're going to put in that front end work. You're going to figure out plan wise. You're going to strategize. Okay, here's what my ideal customer looks like. Here's how I'm going to find them. Here's where they're hanging out. I'm going to go there and hang out with them, or I'm going to find them at these places where they hang out. Whether that be LinkedIn, whether it be networking events, whether that be rugby games, or whether that be, in boardrooms or whatever. If I can get to those places, I will. So if that's part of your strategy, great. You at least know where they are. Once you've got in front of them, or once you've got a meeting with them, what are you going to do? What kind of process are you going to take them down? Because the other thing you need to understand as a seller, sales process doesn't always align with buying process. They're two different processes that have two different timelines, two different sets of priorities, two different outcomes, right? So a buying process can take way longer than a sales process. So you've got to figure out, okay, do I really want to impose my sales process on them and my timelines? Or do I want to align my sales process with their buying process? Which is what you should do.
You just reminded me of one of my other businesses where I sell products, where it's relatively a fast close because of the reputation I've built and the social proof I have online. But the buying process is what taxes me, bro. Like from, the buying process doesn't match the selling process. So what's some advice around that as we kind of round up our discussion to kind of manage it? Because it becomes taxing, bro.
Yeah.
Where to a point, to be honest, I feel flat because of that.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. You feel flat because of that. Because the sales process that you had that you really wanted to stick to didn't align with the buying process. And until you align with the buying process and understand what the buying process is early in the piece, you're going to be flat. You're going to do things that you feel need to be rushed, need urgency. They've got a buying process, right? And when you figure out what the buying process is, then you can align to the buying process. You know what the timelines are. You know what the expectations are. You're not disappointed. You're not putting unnecessary pressure on the buyer, right? So now the buyer is aligned with you because you're aligned with them. You're now keeping to their timeline, and now you're a little bit easier. You're not bringing energy that's like, hurry up, what's holding you back? The question you asked, what's holding you back? See, that to me as a buyer, I'd be like, man, this sales guy is putting pressure on me now that's not in line with how I saw things happening. He didn't take the time to understand what my buying process is. I've already got in my mind, I'm going to meet with this guy, another guy, or I'm already going to take 3 weeks because my wife's away for 2 weeks and I definitely need to talk to her. That's part of my buying process. Did he find out? Maybe not. Right? So you have to ask questions that help you understand where you're at with this person, where they're at in their buying process. So typically you find, is there pain? Is there pain in what they're doing today to help them, make this purchase? Is there a budget? Do they have the money? Where's the money coming from? I, as a salesperson, need to understand, where's the money coming from? Is it coming from a marketing budget? Is it coming from money they put aside, money they've saved? Is it coming from some area of the business that's already spending money? Then the decision-making process, which is another one that's key. If I don't know what their decision-making process is, I'm going to run around like a headless chook, doing things that I think is going to help the deal, but the buyer's in no rush because the seller didn't understand, okay, I need to talk to my wife, my mum, my dad, my boss at work, but all these things, they might have all those people as part of their decision. It's up to you to find out.
I guess from a practical sense, like as you're thinking about the pipeline and like tools, I think that's why I've invested into a CRM where I can have the different stages of the prospect. And because I don't have that visually, I'm just trying to stack hustle and stack deals, but it's taxing me. And so now that I'm at capacity, it's about streamlining that process so I can, like you said, understand the buying process and the selling process and don't feel taxed, you know what I mean? And so you open my eyes, bro, but it's like, there's not one recipe, like you gotta just create, because of the nature of my businesses, it's just like trying to streamline a bit. Yeah.
Everyone needs a CRM. Everyone who's selling anyway. If you're in sales, you need a CRM. Otherwise, you're relying on post-it notes. You're relying on pieces of paper, whiteboard. You're relying on cleaners not wiping the whiteboard. You know, all these kind of things. If it's in a CRM, well, the rule is, if it's not in the CRM, it never happened.
Yeah.
Because what you don't track, you can't manage.
That's good, bro. Bro, as we round up, there's two final things of what I wanted to kind of share about closed wars. Just in summary, out of all those, you shared a lot, bro, and there's a lot for me to kind of take in around that. But in terms of the sales hack of the week, in summary, what could be a word of a tactic for me that I could take away from a piece of advice?
Rules. Set some rules for every part of your day, your process, your strategy. There has to be rules all the way. Otherwise, you're running around like headless chicken. And if you're running around like headless chicken, it means you don't know which direction you're going in, right? Here's the direction we're going, and here's why. You need to have rules for yourself and your team.
That's good. And I guess for me, I can't create those rules unless I have a full layout of where I want to head. And because I'm hustling and stacking deals, which is great, but it's not sustainable. And so I guess I gotta set me some rules, bro.
Yep. The rules all lead to your goal. So whatever your goal is, whatever your vision is, you've got to have a plan.
Cheers, bro. Final words from the Jedi Master Joey. What's your final words of encouragement, especially for our viewers that are tuning in here today for the first time?
Try not to ever answer unasked questions. There's a good reason for that. When the next time you talk to someone, try not to answer unasked questions. Use that as an exercise, right? When you're in a conversation, you might be talking about rugby, you might be talking about, what's coming up next week, holidays, whatever. If you find yourself answering unasked questions, look at the other side. Look at the person you're talking to, your audience. See how they're taking it. Do they care? Do they really care about what you're saying to them? About what you saw in a movie or a program that you watched? Have a look at the way they're reacting. Are they interested? Are they actually interested? Because you'll find that they just glaze over. They just zone out.
So good, bro. There's a few nuggets there for me to take away. Biggest one for me is don't answer
unasked questions.
So appreciate your time today. This is episode 1 of Closed Wars. We only went through one deal, which was buzzy. I got many more deals and heartaches that I will want to share with the viewers. I want to hear and get your advice back. But for today, that is us. Thank you for the episode, guys, and thank you to Joey Nanai.
Thanks, man.
That's some gold.
Marvelous.